Farlost, Fog of War. Six. Hara was out on her balcony when Peter arrived. She didn't hear him at first, looking out at the small town that was Olin. Olin, like most asteroid settlements, was a world upside down, not built on the surface of a planet, but the hollowed-out ceiling of the rock. When he was a kid, he always thought the three support pillars that met in the center of the open space looked like feet, holding up the artificial sky, a narrow cylinder of transit, supply runs, and artificial sunlight that stretched from one end of Olin to the other. Olin was small. A few kilometers of streets, farmland, and industrial buildings lined the inside of the asteroid. There was a wetland down there, too, but he'd never been on it, or in it. Creating lakes on Olin was barely within their means, and they really didn't have enough space, but the local commerce society kept on beating the drum of tourism until the voters let them have the last strip of undeveloped land big enough for the project. Olin's spin generated 3/4 Earth gravity. To Peter, born and raised here, it was just what gravity was supposed to feel like, not 3/4 of whatever on a planet his great-great-grandparents had wandered too far away from when they found themselves trapped forever in Farlost. This view was always the cure for bad dreams, Hara said, inviting Peter to sit. He took the ornate metal garden chair beside her, unsure if she was speaking to him or herself. He stared at the captain's insignia, DNA bombed onto the back of her hand as she covered her mouth, fighting back tears. "There's always more to say, isn't there, hon?" Peter froze, realizing she was leaving a message for her husband. Jekotana was away from Olin, their grown kids with him, fulfilling a service contract. A goodbye message? "Go to ground," she said, her voice tight. "Somewhere deep. If you can stock up within 48 hours, do it, but then get under cover and stay there until it's all over." Hara stopped, her lip quivering, and she looked out again at her home. "The lilacs are in bloom here, Jake." Peter looked away, the only privacy he could offer her. A moment later, Hara continued. "This is real, baby," she whispered. "What I always said would never, ever happen. Thank you for my life. And thank you, Janie, Aaron, Philip. You're my world. Mama loves you, and—" her voice broke. "She always will. Goodbye, my loves." Hara waved her hand in the air. The recording chimed off, and Hara collapsed into tears. Peter studied the decorative rocks Hara and Jake had epoxied to the prefab metal frame of the garden wall. He chipped a tooth on one of them as a kid. When her tears quieted, he took a breath to speak. "Yes," she answered before he could. "Before Jake brought me here, I served." He smiled. That was the Mrs. Otana he grew up with, self-deprecatingly encapsulating a life that impressed everyone who knew her into simple little words. And what he knew of her life only scratched the surface. "The guard is coming back?" She nodded, then stared harder at him. "You want to know about them," she said. "The WDF. I want to know a lot," Peter said. "You always loved to play defender." She'd been crying a lot, her eyes puffy and red. "I remember you screaming around this apartment, chasing pirates and system guard." "Who are they?" he said impulsively, even callously. He knew. "Where did they go?" She laughed and sniffed back tears. "My answers will, no doubt, disappoint." He waited. She looked at him as if weighing a decision. "You can keep a secret," she nodded. "I'll tell you some of it, but I need you to swear never to write it down or record what I tell you. And if one day Philip asks, or his brother or sister, you'll sit them down alone and tell them." Peter was burning to know. But suddenly his chest was hot and tight. "Why do you have to go?" he blurted. "Why can't they pick someone else? Everybody here needs you." He watched something shift in her, harden. She stood straighter. "Yes, they do," she said. "But that's how it works." Peter caught himself staring again at the black captain's bars on her hand. "On the line," she said, "you only worried about two things: winning and surviving. As for who they are, I really don't know. All I know is how they found me." Hara told the tale, and Peter listened. This is your writer and narrator, John Muro. For more information, please visit servingworlds.com. Thanks for listening.